water. It's what you're made of. And it's the thing that you are lacking the most because our water sucks. So you are dehydrated. Matter of fact, my friend Danica said that, unfortunately, her father committed suicide. And she always tells me, I literally think my dad killed himself because he was dehydrated. And that and all things health is we're going to be talking about on this week's episode of The Higher Self with our friend, Alex Conley. Alex, welcome back.
Thank you, man. It's so good to be back.
Good to have you here. I love speaking with you because not only are you committed to health because of what you went through, which you shared, you had leukemia at the age of 4, but you're creating some things that are helping revolutionize health. And before we get into all of that, we're sitting here the day after Awaken, and you had an experience.
I did.
And I don't know what that is.
Yeah, we saved it. So I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, tell me, how did it go for you?
It took me straight back to when I was 4 years old and when I had leukemia and that same feeling of being a scared little boy. And what I realized more than ever is that was my first memory in life, was because that's right around like the time where your brain develops and you start to have first memories. And it took me right back to that spot. And in the middle of doing the breath work, I started to feel this interesting feeling in my throat. And it was a similar taste. And I remembered what it was. And it was the chemotherapy. And it was such a interesting feeling for me to be taken back into that spot and back into that fear. And if you're not familiar, what chemo does is it makes you really nauseous and it makes you throw up the whole time. And so I felt every time I would take a breath in, it would be like dripping in the back of my throat again. But the most powerful thing that has maybe ever happened to me is every time I would exhale, it was leaving my body.
Wow.
And leaving my body and leaving my body. And I just felt 10 pounds lighter afterwards. And it was like I could see visualizing like sickness leaving my body and releasing all of that extra fear that was still in me from 4 years of chemotherapy. And what I realized too is like not only did the leukemia try to kill me, but the chemo is just all the poison, 4 years of poison still stuck in my body. And I feel like I finally released all of that.
And energetically.
Right.
I gotta ask you, Alex. I don't think I've ever had anyone on here that like has gone through Awaken and has experienced this stuff. I mean, what does it feel like to like be a human being living this life and to be able to tap into some deep, deep, deep emotions and fear and release them?
Like I said, it's almost like I felt like I lost 10 pounds, but from my soul, like it all just escaped. And all of a sudden it was like I was breathing differently afterwards. And since then, just feel lighter and you kind of feel like, man, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And I wasn't even conscious of that. And what triggered it is after speaking at Awaken, when you brought me up on stage to share a little bit about my story, this kid comes up to me and he goes, man, thank you for sharing your story. When I was 16 years old, I had leukemia too. And that's why I'm here, is to heal that and heal from that fear of sickness again. And it put that thought into my head. And I was like, oh, cool, man. Good for you. Like, pumped you're here. And I didn't realize how much work I still needed to do around that, because I speak freely about it all the time and it doesn't, necessarily control me, but it was so deep in my subconscious that I didn't even know it was still there.
I think that's, now you all know my passion, my relentlessness about getting you to come to Awaken is you have no idea what is stuck in you, in your memory, in your energy, in your frequency, in your body, and how it blocks you. Like Alex, straight up, I just got to ask you, how has that fear, now that you are present to it, how has that fear been stopping your life?
In so many ways. And there was other revelations too, of just like, even though this is partially what I do for a living is speak, I realized that I was even being blocked from the ability to do that. And there was, to go even deeper in that, there was, when I was a little boy, throughout school, I would always get kicked out into the hallway for talking in class. And so it was like, that's my superpower, is human connection and being able to talk. And every time I would do that, I would get in trouble for it and punished for it. And so, of course, I was always a little bit timid to share my story. Even though I do it all the time, there was just a little bit of fear in there still. And I feel like I don't have any of that anymore.
It's just so wonderful, guys. It's so wonderful to know that that this is accessible to us. It's so wonderful to know, it's why I do this work, because all the journeys that I have been through like that, all the revelations that I have gone through, and then I literally just think about other people. I literally like, oh my God, if this is what's been coming up for me, like what about everybody else,
And I think as men, maybe it feels a little bit scarier for us to even like hear that. So if you're a man out there listening right now, I would extra encourage you to come here, because I feel like we need it more than ever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because it's, as men, I remember, we do this workshop, just so you're all aware, sexual trauma is something that blocks our life force. It blocks us from connection to our body, from connection to ourselves. Unfortunately, it causes a lot of illness because of that unresolved energy. And so we face that head on at Awaken. And I'll never forget the man that essentially shared with us, at this Awaken, how he, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I do know what you're talking about. And he said that he felt all the pain that women have ever felt that have experienced that.
Yeah.
And it was almost our job as men to take on that pain.
And the interesting thing that happened was that there's an activity we do, I'm not going to ruin it, but there's an activity that we do where women get to confront their sexual trauma and the energy in which they have been placing on men as a result of that sexual trauma. And they get to liberate themselves from it, which is, if you've been there, but you've never heard wailing like this. Yeah, I mean, just the most profound release. And one of the men mentioned, like, I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Remember that one?
Exactly.
I didn't know what to do, which is, now you understand, if you're out there listening, you understand this is why us men have to do the work, because until we do the work, we cannot hold space for our women to do the work. We cannot hold space for the release of the trauma, of the fear, of the trapped energy that they've had inside of them their entire lives, the sexual trauma that they have experienced. And if they don't feel free to let go of all of that, our love making with them will never be actual love making. It'll be like fear making, And so if you really think about this, this is why it's so important for the man to heal. Because when the man heals, he can allow space for the woman to heal. The woman literally feels safe enough in his presence to let go of everything she's been carrying her whole life. And then to take it even a step further, when the man and the woman heal and they come together to create life, what kind of life do they create? What kind of children do they create? Healed children. And this is why it's so important for us to do this work.
Yeah, and honestly, it makes me a little bit sad to see the little amount of men that are there at Awaken compared to how many women show up and are ready to do the work versus how many men are ready to show up and do the work.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was, now I feel almost a little bit responsible to help get more men involved and more men there as well, because that's what we need more than ever.
I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to close because here's what I'm going to do. We're going to make an ad out of that. Cause it was just a message that came, but we'll make an ad out of it. And you guys are going to witness like the creation of an ad basically, right? Now you just need a call to action, right? Yeah. So if you're a man that is ready to heal, comment heal below and we will send you a link to join us at the 3 most transformative healing days of your life. There you go. There's an ad.
Perfect.
And then we'll just start targeting men, and the men who resonate with that message will come.
That's beautiful, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it, like I said, it absolutely needs to happen. And just kind of to go back to what happens there when the women do get to release, not only do we take on their pain, but we also realize more than ever that happened in, because of a sick and broken man.
Man, we caused that.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man.
And so it's like, that happened in the hands of a broken man, and a sick man. And
it can be healed at the hands of a healed man.
100%.
Right.
That's how it starts.
That's right. Yeah. Alex, you're getting all spiritual and shit. What's going on, man?
Yeah, dude, it feels so good. It feels so good. And I've always, this is why I'm so happy to be here and to be working with you.
Yeah.
And why I feel like we were drawn to each other a little bit is because when I talk about health too, I talk about health is the mind, the body, and the spirit. And that's why I kind of like make the fitness industry my enemy almost, because I look at the fitness industry and it's just one tiny little bit of the puzzle, one tiny little piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And,
health is the mind, body, and spirit, but life is the mind, body, and spirit.
That's right.
And that's why health is the single most important thing in life. And once it's taken away from you, it's the only thing that you could ever want back. It doesn't matter if you have everything else in the world. You wake up with a sore throat. What are you going to think about?
Yeah.
How do I get rid of this sore throat? And how do I feel better? And people don't think about it, and we take it for granted every single day. And I think that that's why me going through the experience that I had as a little boy and truly fighting for my health my entire life, and in my 20s diagnosed with 2 chronic diseases and told that I was going to have to live with that forever. And then finally in my mid 20s, I said, screw this, I'm going to learn how to heal myself. And I think that, I just want to give people hope that they don't have to be sick. And just because it's common does not mean it's normal.
First off, I'm going to invite you right here, right now. I felt called to invite you to come do Iowa with us.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been thinking about that.
I have been.
I just felt like this urge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've had the urge has been calling me. So
okay.
Yeah,
so we're going to, all right. Beautiful. Okay. I was feeling that. Okay. Beautiful. So I'll get you the information on that. But you said something, you said I've made the fitness industry my enemy, why? What about the fitness industry what does it cause that charge in?
It led me to being sick. That's it at the end of the day, because I was in the world of fitness. I was studying exercise physiology. I was working at GNC. I was taking all the supplements. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was exercising. I was 4 or 5% body fat. I looked incredible on the outside, but was absolutely wrecked on the inside because I was focused on what the fitness industry tells you, which is count your calories. It's a simple math equation, calories in, calories out. Macros are the only thing that matter. Get your protein in. But no one ever mentioned the quality of food or the quality of the ingredients in the supplements that you were taking. And so what happened over time is I developed IBS, and then you get a diagnosis from the Western medical system that says you have IBS, which at the end of the day is a symptom. And they tell you that you're going to have to live with this forever. And, I had chronic fatigue because I completely destroyed my nervous system because I was, thinking I was doing the right thing. I was in grind culture, waking up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym and work out, taking the high stimulant pre-workouts, completely wrecking my cortisol, my stress and nervous system was through the roof. And of course, what happens when your nervous system is out of regulation is disease becomes present.
I think so many of us are we're walking around life completely unaware of what it means to actually be healthy. We're completely, especially in America, I can't stress enough, guys, we obviously are just coming off of a trip to Italy where we ate more food than I eat here. And all of the food that here I'm told is bad and not to eat. And I felt so incredible, man.
It's sad, right?
I really did. It's like, it really is, I'm just going to say it straight out. Here in America, they're literally poisoning us.
I can give you an example of that. There is, I think, only 11 pesticides that are banned in the US. and there is easily over 100 in Europe, and there is over 1,300 toxic chemicals in our women's beauty supplies that are banned in Europe, and there's less than 20 in the US. I mean, it almost feels dark and intentional. And, 70% of children's diet is now ultra processed foods. And so that's specifically targeted towards children. If you look at every processed food, it's Goldfish, Pop-Tarts, Trix cereal, like Lucky Charms. It's all characters specifically targeted towards food, because the way that our medical system is set up is there is nothing more profitable in the entire world than a sick child. And I fell into that, and that's why I can speak from the heart from that. Is I was the sick child. I was in the system, and my parents did go into extreme debt, paying all of my medical bills throughout my life. And that's the number one cause of bankruptcy in the US is medical debt.
Yeah. As you said that, I'm just going to set the record straight. Listen, it's interesting. I remember once being that guy that was like, I'm a proud American. And, obviously it's cool to live here, but,
yeah.
But to be honest, what I do, I can do it anywhere in the world. I live here because of my kids, quite frankly, because my kids are here. But, when you really look at it, like if you're an American, you got to wake up and you got to understand that the energy, I'm talking spiritually here, the energy and frequency of America is one of darkness. And you don't have to believe me. Just go to your grocery store and go look at the food. Anyone that actually loves you would not be putting that shit out on shelves. And if they're putting that shit out on shelves, then you have to ask yourself why. It's because they want something from you. Not maybe the business owner, but just go higher, go to the consciousness, go to the energy, go to the frequency is what I'm talking about. It's a whole different level, right? Which if you've tapped into that level, you could see it. It's for one reason and one reason only, and that's to make you sick. And then I'm going to take it a step further. It's the same thing with politics. Yeah. What does politics want from you? To be dependent upon someone else to save you and fix your problems, and then to fight with each other while you're waiting for someone else to save you. What is that? That's darkness. That isn't love.
Yeah.
And then I'll give it one more step for you. Look at religion. And what does the prominent religion here in America want for you? It wants you waiting for somebody to come save you, and it wants you fighting with everybody else because they're wrong and you're right. And that's Christianity. That's its own evil in and of itself. But then you have shit like Mormonism and like Jehovah's Witness. That's that's the worst of the worst. Like you cannot experience joy. You can't celebrate your birthday. You can't wake up, humans.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Well, and that's the ultimate way to fight back, right? Is it's working. What they're doing is working, because now that 70% of our diets, for children is ultra processed foods, over 40% of children are now overweight or obese. And 60% of America's diet as adults is ultra processed foods. Guess how many people have heart disease in the US? 60%.
Wow.
And 60% of people now have chronic disease. And 40% of people now have 2 or more chronic diseases.
And all of it is unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. You want to know the best way to beat disease?
Tell me.
Prevent it in the first place.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do people prevent it?
I think it's so insanely simple. It's seriously so insanely simple. You eat single ingredient foods that were grown by God.
Hold on, stop.
Yes.
Because when you say that, so like single ingredient foods, I think people hear some of this stuff. Please, we're so unconscious that he could say something like eat single ingredient foods while we're putting a tortilla in our fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Like tortilla. I know it's one word. I know it's a single word. That is not a single ingredient, right? So understand this. To fix any issues you're having, eat single ingredient foods and stop eating non-single ingredient foods.
Yeah. I mean, I can break down my diet very simply. Organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed animal products, meat and eggs, yogurt, things like that. organic fruits and vegetables, organic potatoes of all different colors because colors equal nutrients, and maybe some organic jasmine white rice because white rice, if you look in every other culture that eats a lot of rice, they remove the husk, the outer husk from brown rice because it's a lot easier to digest. And that's basically my diet. Yeah. In fact, I wrote a book on what I eat that is called Eat Your Medicine.
I love
and
it.
it is available on Amazon to everyone. And what I did is I wrote every single ingredient food I could possibly think of in the world, and then take it a step further. Why should we eat this food? What does this food do in our body? What compounds does it contain? What antioxidants do they contain? And how does it possibly help you heal? So you can use food as medicine. And then we break down some supplements in there. What supplements do we have that we can use as medicine and help us heal? Because when you're eating food, you're either hurting yourself or you're healing yourself. And it's the most simple way that we can possibly do. And the most powerful decision that maybe you make every single day is, what are you putting into your body?
Alex, and to everybody out there, like I cannot stress to you enough what has happened in my life just by following that. And I mean no disrespect to you if you are a vegan, for example, because I that was a part of my journey. Like, part of my journey was realizing that didn't work for me. But like, I used to devour tofu like crazy. I used to devour Beyond Meat like crazy, man. And like, thinking of it just gives me, like, in Spanish we call it asco. These were the times where, yeah, I was ripped, but I couldn't sleep. I felt terrible. I had gum issues. All of these things were going on. And when I finally, I just scarfed down 6 ounces of ground beef, 1 cup of jasmine rice. For breakfast, I had our protein, some blueberries, and a little bit of almond butter. Like, your life just changes, guys.
It's incredible, man. And even to take it a step further, and this is something that I've really been paying attention to lately, is the most important thing for me is quality of the ingredients. So where are we sourcing the food from? And if you think about food, just food of any sort, plants, animals, everything, it is energy, not only from an energetic perspective and spiritual perspective of how that food was grown, but that is how we create energy in our body. Our mitochondria takes the food that we eat and converts it, and we, produce ATP, which is our energy system in the body. But going back to how food and the quality matters more than anything, I'll give you an example of adaptogens. They are a classification of herbs that we call them adaptogens because they're grown in very harsh environments, which means that they have to adapt and overcome to their environment. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And so they adapt, they overcome, and they become extremely nutrient dense. So it's things like lion's mane mushroom, like rhodiola root, like ashwagandha, these powerful medicinal compounds. They're a classification of adaptogens that when you consume that food because of the way that it was grown, it then makes you adapt to stress in your own body. And so the energy of how food was grown matters to how it reacts in our body as well. And we know this in studies too. Like, you could take 2 plants, put them side by side together, and you can play metal music around one plant and tell it that you hate it. And you look at the other plant and you tell it that I love you, and you play, healing frequencies around it. Which plant do you think is going to die, and which plant do you think is going to thrive? And we did that study. Actually, I took a course in college called the Psychosocial Determinants of Health. And that course alone was what really opened my mind to a different realm of health other than just fitness. And food carries an energetic log. It's very, very beautiful and incredible. And that's why organic is important. And that's why the Native Americans had a fascination with bison, is because they're such a strong, beautiful animal. And bison, they noticed that bison were the only animals that didn't run from the storm, but they ran into the storm because they were so smart that they realized that if they run into the storm, they'll actually pass through the storm quicker than every other animal on the plains. And so the Native Americans had a very special relationship with the bison, and they would follow them into the storm and use them as their food supply, but from a beautiful relationship perspective of these animals are so strong, therefore they're going to give us strength.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I remember, and I want to get into water and hydration in a second, but I remember what helped change me forever was seeing this guy on Instagram that would show how sacred the process was for him of, of hunting, and how he would pray over the animal. And I was able to see a very, you know, obviously on one end there's death, but on the other end, like there's life, because it's giving me life. And, hopefully the day that I go, like I already know, like I don't want a casket. I want to just put me back into the earth. Just put me back into the earth so that I could feed the earth,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it's just another way that we have become so disconnected to our food is now, like, the average thing of produce ships, I think it's 1,500 miles before we actually feed it. And so we're so disconnected from our local farmers and from the local soil and from the local animals. And that's why, when we eat pork or beef instead of, cow, we're not eating cow because we've removed it and we've given it a different name to like further separate us from the spirituality of the animal and it giving us life. And it's just, we're so separated from our food supply that truly the best thing you could do is eat locally, seasonally, go to your local farmer's market if you have it, trust the farmers, see them, talk to them, ask them about their soil, ask them if they spray anything on their food. Like, we're so disconnected from walking into a grocery store. And sure, there's a lot of blessing to be able to walk into a grocery store and hand pick your food. And that's, again, the ultimate choice for you to heal your body or to hurt your body is every time you go grocery shopping, the power is in your hands.
Well, and I want to share something with you guys that many of you, I brought it up at Awaken and many people were not aware of, but you do have to realize that the grocery store that you shop at matters. Like, there's a big chain here in Texas called HEB. I would never in my life step foot into that grocery store, but it's the same thing in California with Food for Less or Stater Brothers, or even Vaughn's or Albertsons or any of these places. It's like you trust so much that you just naturally go to the local grocery store, right? And I say this gently, like I do know, because I remember, Alex, like back in the day, I used to, during Christmas, and we might do it again, but I would just send meals to people. And I remember I myself would go in there into Instacart and do the shopping and send hundreds of meals to people. And I remember in some places, like based off of where they lived, they wouldn't have access to better grocery stores. Like it was like Kroger or like some shit like that. And when you go to these lower quality grocery stores, you're getting lower quality options because the grocery store is operating from a lower quality frequency. You have to understand that, so that you don't even get access to the best water. You don't even get access to organic ingredients. Or if you do, go into your grocery store. It's very small. If you're going to go in a grocery store, that's why I think in America, the only option is Whole Foods or Erewhon or Trader Joe's or
natural grocers. We have
or
one
natural
here.
grocers. Yeah. This is the only places you can go in America, quite frankly. And, I tell people at Awaken, if you say, but I can't afford it, then maybe, just maybe, the fact that you think you can't afford it is why you can't afford it.
Yeah. And I view this as an investment. There is no better investment in your entire life than your health and your body. And it's the ultimate investment. And, and truly, like, I want to give people hope though, like I don't want to sit here and I think it's important for people to wake up to the fact that yes, it is very hard to be healthy, but that is by design, correct? But there's a way through it, there's a way out, there's a way through, and it's not that hard. It just takes the decision to eat the organic. And the reason why we should eat organic, I heard Dr. Zach Bush explain this, so I have to give him credit for it, but it is the most beautiful way I've ever heard anyone describe why it's so important to eat organic. Because what happens when you eat herbicides and pesticides is that they break the tight junctions in your gut. And 50% of your dopamine is made in the gut. And 95% of serotonin is made in the gut, which dopamine is your drive and motivation. Serotonin is your mood and your happiness. and over 80% of your immune system is found in the gut. So when you ingest food that has been sprayed with herbicides and pesticides, and it breaks down the gut barrier and the tight junctions in the gut, how can you possibly expect to even feel like yourself if you have no dopamine and no serotonin? And that is the number one reason why it is the most important decision that you can do, because your food that you eat, the water that you drink, and the air that you breathe literally creates you.
That's right. You mentioned water, Alex. I am mind blown at two things. Number one, I was turned on to electrolytes about a year ago. I didn't really think it was a big deal, but then I started to realize what you're probably going to share in a little bit, how crap our water is. And so I was turned on to like the big one, Element, and then I remember I bought, because, once I get an idea, I go crazy. I bought a package from Element, and then I bought a package from, what's the super duper supposedly clean label? What is it?
You want me to say the name?
Say the name.
Symbiotica?
Yeah, Symbiotica. Yeah. So I bought, because I thought they're expensive, so they're the best. This is, how I think, right? And when I got the ingredients, I threw both of them away right away. One of them I think both of them had cane sugar. Like, if you, listen to me, please. You want to change your life and you want to get healthy, step number one, go into your cupboards right now and look at your bread, look at your oatmeals, look at your everything, and look at how many of the products you consume unnecessarily have cane sugar added to it. For what? Let me tell you, to keep you in a state of stress, inflammation, and disease. That is what. And the saddest thing is that a lot of these health companies are putting cane sugar into these products, and you are trusting in them, and they are literally taking your money and they're making you sick.
It's crazy, man. And that was like, I guess to start with why we developed a hydration blend and why we actually decided to call the product Full Body Hydrate and not just electrolytes, is because we took it such, to the extreme and a step further. And to your point, most of the leading electrolyte drinks on the market have added sugar, or on the other hand, they're just table salt. So they're the sodium chloride compound, which is table salt, and table salt has been stripped of all of its minerals. So when we think about how do I want to formulate products and what products do I want to come out with, I think about what do people need to heal the most? And then that leads me to the next question of what are people the most deficient in? And then that leads me to the next question of 90% of people in the US are chronically dehydrated, because the water that we are drinking is either from a tap water that we now know tap water has forever chemicals in it. It has fluoride in it, and it has heavy metals in it. And, fluoride, the more that we drink, the dumber we get. There are studies out there that say fluoride actually lowers IQ. And our tap water supply is completely toxic. So then that leads us to the next step. What do we do? And then we filter our water. And most people think, yeah, that's a great step. And it is. It's completely essential. But water is what we call the universal solvent, which means when you look at it in nature, it picks up on the Earth's surface, which is full of electric charges and minerals. And so when you have now stripped that water, the living being of water, of all of its minerals, it has no choice but to pull the minerals from your body. If you're drinking just pure filtered water, it's basically dead water. That water is now no longer alive. It doesn't carry that electric charge. And that is why electrolytes are so important. And so then again, going back to how my brain works when we formulate products, is like, how does it exist in nature? It's very, very mineral dense because of water being the universal solvent. And so it picks up on Earth's surfaces and clays and all these natural trace minerals. And so when we sourced our sea salt, we said we're going to leave it unrefined with all the trace minerals that naturally exist. And so our sea salt comes from an ancient seabed in Utah that has over 60 trace minerals in it. And our magnesium that we source is from Ireland, off the coast of Ireland, from seawater extracts. So when you think about trace minerals, you think about the ocean. It's the highest trace mineral content of anywhere we look on Earth. And then to take it a step even further, going back to how water picks up on Earth's surfaces and clays, we use silica, which silica is a clay. And if you look at natural artesian water, you can flip around a label on like Fiji, for example, artesian water. You'll look at like the compounds of minerals and what's the highest one? It's silica. And what silica does is it pulls the fluids into the fascia, into the tissues, into the hair, skin, and nails. And it's an essential piece of hydration that I've never seen in an electrolyte product before.
Wow.
And I go, why are we not doing this when we look to Mother Nature? And that's how it exists in its purest form. And so we add organic silica from organic bamboo, which they've used in traditional Chinese medicine for 2,000 years now.
In order to not miss these episodes or the weekly clips that we provide that will help you in the 3 energies of human mastery, how to change your financial life, how to change your relationship life, and how to heal yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually, make sure to subscribe right now to the channel. Trust me, it'll be the greatest decision and action you take today, because the value we are committed to bringing you is going to be life-changing. Go ahead and subscribe right now. Alex, since I got turned on to your guys' Hydrate product, there has not been a single day of my life that I haven't taken it.
And how do you feel?
I absolutely love it. It's changed my life, dude. It really, really has. I mean, sometimes I take it twice a day because I just feel more fluid. I feel like my body is like functioning better. I rest better. I'm just a better version of me. Why do I feel that?
Yeah, because I would say it goes back to what are we all deficient in? And unfortunately, we are such a mineral deficient society in general, because most of us have just been drinking either filtered water or tap water majority of our lives, and possibly pulling and stripping minerals from our body. The other thing is our soil is completely shot and deficient of minerals, specifically magnesium, because of the farming practices that we have. We monocrop agriculture, where you see massive farm fields of wheat, corn, soy, and you're only growing one crop. And so you're destroying an ecosystem, because that's not how things exist in nature either, right?
Right.
And so you're only growing one crop over and over and over again. And so that soil is now losing its ecosystem, because it only has to produce one crop now instead of a wide array of crops. And so the soil gets very, very depleted of nutrients and minerals. And then we spray herbicides and pesticides on it, which then reduces the topsoil. And then when it rains, the topsoil just literally floods off the farms, and it loses all of its minerals and its top layer of soil. And we're now looking at almost like a hard layer of dirt that's more like concrete than brown, lush soil. And so of course it's dying. And, that's why I always tell people, like, unfortunately, that's why supplements are almost a necessity, is because our food, most of it that we're eating, is so,
deficient,
nutrient poor.
Yeah. This is nuts. And then the second thing you spoke about is magnesium. Why is that one so important?
Yeah, when we think of magnesium, well, first of all, magnesium is responsible for over 300 enzymatic processes in the body. It's the single most important mineral. And we think about, cramps and stress and anything that's tight is a magnesium deficiency, headaches. And so magnesium is basically the anti-stress mineral. And so what we say on our magnesium on the label is that we have 3 types of magnesium for the mind, the body, and the nervous system. And it's going to deregulate. Yep. So there's 3 types.
Different types of magnesium in the magnesium.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
And we formulated that specifically to be the 3 most bioavailable types. And one of them is called magnesium L-threonate. That is the only form that's proven to pass the blood-brain barrier. And so that is the form for the mind. We have magnesium glycinate for the body. And then we use magnesium that's harvested from seawater that has over 72 trace minerals in it. Calm the nervous system down.
I gotta ask you, you keep mentioning seawater, which to me sounds really cool and really yes, but why is that? And I'm asking you, because you're a friend now, so I know how your brain thinks, and I know you want the best, but they may hear that and go seawater, but why is that so important? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Compared to everything else that is out there.
Yep. I think that what we try to do is just get sourcing from the best possible source that we can do. And in my opinion, it's Mother Nature.
Yes.
And so most of the magnesium products that other people are getting don't contain all the necessary trace minerals. It's just like in the hydration drink, a lot of other companies are just using table salt that doesn't have the associated minerals with it. And why trace minerals are so important is that's how your body regulates fluids at the cellular level. So intracellular, extracellular fluids, the trace minerals are responsible for that in and out fluid regulation. And then the potassium is responsible for inside the cell, and the salt is for outside the cell. And so that's why we call the product full body hydrate, is it's truly down to the cellular level.
Right.
And then, same with the magnesium product. We just think the seawater and getting all those trace minerals that most of us are deficient in is another
It's a game
step.
changer.
Yeah.
Game changer. And then finally, number 3, I know that the vitamin D, we're also deficient in that.
Yeah. Again, like when we think about how do we want to help people heal, when people ask, like, what do you do at Kono? We say we help people heal by putting health first.
I love that.
And in order to heal, we have to cover the basis of deficiencies. And so the 3, the number 1 vitamin deficiency is vitamin D. The number 1 mineral deficiency is magnesium. And then the other thing that we're all chronically deficient in is hydration. And so that's why we put together those 3 products in something that we call the Health First Bundle, because we think that those are the 3 really missing links in modern day society, and especially vitamin D, because most of us don't get enough sunshine. We're not outside all day. Our lifestyle doesn't, it inhibits it now because we're working at a desk all day. And vitamin D is, the sunshine vitamin. And what happens when sunlight hits your skin is your body literally makes vitamin D. It is, just to give you an example of how important this is, vitamin D is the only single vitamin on earth that your body makes naturally. Your body produces it on its own. So it acts more like a hormone than a vitamin.
So if you're living in the north and the sun isn't out a lot, then you need this.
Yeah. And the studies range from anywhere between 70 and 90% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. So even people that live in, sunny places oftentimes are still deficient, and people of color are actually more deficient as well, because that's the melanin in your skin requires more and more and more sunshine to produce that vitamin D. And it's not easy to get. You got to be outside for quite some time.
Wow. So what you've done at Kono is you've essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've taken it back to like the days before internet, the days before. You've taken it back thousands of years, and you've said, what were human beings made to need and be able to get from Earth?
100%. I
Wow.
mean, this is a crazy example of how salt has been demonized, right? People tell you to limit your salt and it might cause high blood pressure. The word salt literally comes from the word salary, because we used to trade salt as a currency back in the day. That's how valuable it is to human health. And we have somehow demonized it, because now most people get their salt from processed foods, but not from the natural, unrefined sea salt from the sea or from an ancient seabed. And that's why our sourcing is so important to us too. And the way that I look at it is, I've never been a math guy, but it's pretty common sense to me. We've been practicing traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine for about 2,000 years now. We've only been practicing Western medicine for about the last 150 years.
And everyone's sick.
It's happened in the last 150 years.
Well, dude, the other day we took Selena, Jen is from the UK. So the other day we took Selena to like this little playground, like this little bounce. It's called Soft Play in London. And Jen is looking around, and I'm just I forgive me first, but it's 1 out of every 4 people was obese.
It's more.
Yeah. But I'm saying in this
Kids,
place.
oh,
yeah, in this place, the kids, the adults, everyone was just, and Jen looks at me and she goes, babe, you guys in America have a very serious problem. She says, I would never, ever see this many people in a week in the UK, let alone in the same place. Americans, wake up. Like, this is bad. Bad, bad, bad.
I feel a shift happening. And I don't think it's just because I'm in the space and I'm speaking about it and you're speaking about it, but I feel a shift happening, even to the point where it got to the Senate, where now in the Senate in Washington, D.C., a bunch of people in the last couple of weeks have been there talking about our food supply and talking about how, in Europe, things are different, and why do they have so many banned substances that we don't have? And so people are fighting and people are waking up. But I think people still go, how do I eat healthy? What do I do? What do I eat? They want to know the what's and the whys. And that's really just what I'm trying to lean into right now, and just trying to give people simple options. Like, here's the basics, here's what you need to do. And that's why I wrote the simplest book I could possibly write, and giving people a health first bundle at Kono. It's just like, it's such an overwhelming thing to even think about, like, where do I start and how do I get healthy? Yeah. And so I'm just trying to like make it as simple as possible for people.
And I love it because you're one of the guides in Awaken You. So your classes, people love them. You mentioned the Health First Bundle. What is that?
So that is the 3 things that I believe people need the most in order to put their health first, which is vitamin D, magnesium, and hydration. And so we look at the 3 most common deficiencies that people really have, and we created the best products that we could possibly create, sourced from Mother Nature.
So you get magnesium, vitamin D, and the hydration product, all in a bundle.
Correct, for a discount.
Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about this. So I told Alex I want all of you as listeners to get like a pretty heavy discount on this stuff, because I don't want money to stop you from not only your health but your kids' health, your family's health. Like, please hear me, guys. This is something that you need to do for your household, right? So first off, where do they go to get it?
Yeah, it's just kononutrition.com, Kono. And then it'll just be right there, called the Health First Bundle.
And then what is our discount?
It's just Danny. Use the code Danny. And with the bundle, so you're subscribing to 3 products or more, you already get 15% off. And then using your code will then jump it up to get people 25% off.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Yeah. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, man. We wanted to, and it's such a hard thing that we do, because we say every decision we make is health first, right? We're not profit first.
Yeah.
And so that's why oftentimes, like, our products are out of stock. Our protein powder is out of stock because we partner with family owned and operated farms in Ireland. We have to import it because we'll only take the best of the best in the world. And so, sometimes it's hard and it's tricky, and they give the cows times to feed and times where they, will say they need time to rest. And so they take, 3 to 6 months off throughout the year, because they don't want to be a classic dairy farm that just continues to pump milk all the times, right? That's not what they're meant to do. And so they're meant to live and roam the land. And so we have to work with them and the family farms to be able to even get the product. And so we're in it for health. Absolutely.
I love that, man. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing. So kononutrition.com, the Health First Bundle. Guys, this gets you everything you need: hydration, vitamin D, and magnesium. And then you're going to use the code Danny, and it'll essentially, if you subscribe, you get 15% off. And then if you use the code, it kicks in, and now you're getting 25% off.
Correct.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where do people get your book, by the way?
Yeah, the book's called Eat Your Medicine, and it's only available on Amazon. Again, it's the most simple form and way I could possibly explain food and how powerful it is. It's less than 100 pages. I didn't want people to be overwhelmed again, because I think it is very overwhelming.
Yep.
And so I'm just trying to dumb it down for people and make it as simple as possible. So the book's just called Eat Your Medicine by Alex Conley on Amazon.
I love it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's good to be back.
For sure. And that's this week's episode of The Higher Self. Go to kononutrition.com. Type in the code Danny, and you're gonna get 25% off when you subscribe. So I hope you appreciate that, because I can honestly say I put my name, my word, my being, my heart behind this. I don't see there's a better company or a better place for you to get any supplements from on planet Earth. I really believe that. So enjoy it, and let us know how you feel. Maybe come back to this video in a month and let us know. You'll definitely notice a difference. We'll see you next week on another episode of The Higher Self.